Welcome, Malisa, to the Sacred Purpose podcast. I am delighted to have you here. We have been connected for several years now. I've lost track, but it feels like a lifetime that we have been following each other's work, following each other's stories. I think you found me originally through your feminine leadership archetype. I'm just really excited to have you here and dive into this conversation. One, because I adore you, and two, because you're just brilliant in the way you do what you do with so much integrity and so much purpose, but in a way that you are so embodied in what you're doing and what you're teaching that you don't even really need to teach because it's who you are, the way you move through the world as the creatrix, bringing so much wisdom to this world that is filled with so much duality and so much contrast. And the way that you bring those two things together, those two worlds together, and live in it is masterful. And I think we have so much to glean from it just by being in your presence. And so I'm really excited to just see where this conversation goes, see where it takes us. Because like you've been a little bit of a wanderlust, or a lot of a wanderlust the last couple of years, and really taking this journey and this path to the next level. So on a personal standpoint, I'm excited for this conversation, but also just to be able to share the wisdom that you've learned through this journey and the creations that you've come along with you on this journey, and just everything in between. So I'm going to give you a moment to just introduce yourself and kind of what brought you here. I know that could be a long answer, but just what brought you here today.
Oh my goodness, Lisa. What an introduction. I am so honored. I'm going to clip that part and play it for myself every morning. That means so much coming from you. Hi, everyone. My name is Malisa Ali, and I am so many things. In Lisa's world, I am a creatrix, and I definitely stand by that archetype as one of my major archetypes, my main one. And ultimately, I am an artist, and I am in this world to alchemize it all into beauty. And beauty is one of my highest values, which you'll see a lot woven throughout my work, alongside justice being one of my highest values. And so I really am on this earth. My sacred purpose, my North Star, are to bring these concepts together and to show that they're one and the same. So I am a professor by day. So I teach sociology and women's studies, and I've done DEI at the university level, inclusivity work, social justice, and I've also been an activist forever. I'm the daughter of a freedom fighter, so it's kind of in the DNA, it's in the blood. And I've also had this background in nonprofit work, and my PhD studies and dissertation are around women of color and our intersectional experiences. So that's kind of like the academic side. And I've always been this spiritual being having a human experience. I mean, we all are, but I have been awakened to it very early. I didn't always have the language, when I was 5 years old. I did grow up in religion, and I'm grateful for that. I definitely am a follower of, God, and, believer in this higher power, and have always kind of been in devotion and in different ways. But, being awakened to spiritual principles, especially, in English, my first language, was super helpful, and was a community that I felt really seen in many ways, but also unseen in. And that's where some of my inclusivity work comes in spiritual communities where, a lot of the principles and teachings are from cultures like mine, and they can often be watered down without proper credit. And, there's a whole thing like cultural appropriation, all the things. And so I also get hired and bring some of that academic background I have to spiritual spaces to create more inclusive spaces and lead the conversation that needs to be had in these spaces, because there can be that bypassing that takes place But then similarly in like my social justice work, there's a lot of burnout, and there's such a deep need for self-care, which, you know, the work of amazing activists like Audre Lorde and, you know, just Black women in the 60s who really brought self-care into light, that was something that was introduced, but, you know, it's still not enough in practice. And I've experienced the burnout as an activist. And so I'm here trying to show the world that it's really two sides of the same coin, like spirituality and social justice. We need both. Like social justice work is spiritual, and spirituality is a form of social justice. And in the midst of all this, yes, I became the queen of self-love, you know, where it's, I almost see this like trifecta of where I'm aware self-love, spirituality, and social justice meet. And as I've mentioned before, beauty is such a value of mine. And it can seem so trivial when you're like teaching around racial justice, right? Like, who cares about, you know, lipstick or art is what it seems like. But truly, you know, beauty is a frequency that is healing. And ultimately, I want to live a beautiful life, and I want to fight for everyone, you know, to be able to live their version of a beautiful life. And so I do live in devotion to beauty, and it's so sacred. You know, it's a sacred practice, like beauty rituals and things like that, because they come from culture and my ancestry. And so I'm leading a global movement that is called Adorn. And this is kind of my revolution. And it's very kind of rooted in social justice and culture and my ancestry. Like, I come from a culture where we adorned ourselves because we see the body and the vessel as sacred. And so that is kind of a little bit about my work. I'm sure I missed some things, but I just kind of do all the things. But I am the lipstick mystic as well. And I love, you know, infusing the stars into the work that I do, and a curator of vibes. So all the things. And I found my way to Lisa because of a quiz, and I'm so grateful that I found you. So thank you to I don't know if it was advertisements or algorithms, like thank you to God, to a higher power for bringing us together, because we are for sure soul sisters. And that quiz was so powerful for me. I mean, I felt so seen by, you know, giving myself permission to be the artist, the creatrix. That was huge, because once again, you know, coming from what feels like such a serious background and body of work in academics, and coming from parents, a culture where, you know, my parents survived genocide. And so, you know, art, you know, it often just feels like not as important as the sciences and things like that. But truly, you know, I am the creatrix, and I see how that is kind of how I bridge all these parts of me and get to kind of really honor my authentic blueprint in this world, is by, you know, alchemizing it all into beauty and art. So yeah, that's how I found myself in Lisa's spaces, in Evoke, and nothing was ever the same.
Oh my God, Malisa, you've just given us like so much right there. I feel like mic drop. I don't even know where to start sometimes. The social justice piece that you touched on, and the beauty piece, like beauty and art is oftentimes an act of rebellion, especially in times of oppression and times of genocide that you said your parents, your family has experienced. And art is oftentimes even the thing that we see being destroyed first when a population is being oppressed. And so that alone tells me how important and meaningful and impactful it is. And yet we dismiss it as something as less valuable than. And yet it is the thing that holds us and binds us and ties us together when there is nothing else. It's art, it's our heart, it's our expression. It's that thing that tells the story without words. It's that thing that speaks to our heart without words. It's a knowing that we can all suddenly connect ourselves to hold us when we feel like maybe there isn't another connection. And then in its most expressed, lived, vivid form, the way that you embody it today, and in this way, still holding all those values together, even in your journey through academia, right? Like, that's not a place that I would generally see as like gonna really evoke all the beauty out of you, right? But you're doing that. You're doing that and you're living it. And it's an expression of the work that you do and an expression of your ancestors. And so I know you take adornment very mindfully. It's a very mindful practice for you. And so I'm curious if you could take me down that road a little bit about what adornment means to you in that way today.
Gosh, I would be so honored. So in 2022, we're kind of COVID, we're out of lockdown and I'm still kind of in it. Like, I moved back in with my family, and that was, of course, in many ways, a beautiful experience to just, be around family during a time where we don't know what was going on in the world. And it just made logical sense. And it was also extremely hard to be with my family as an adult, as the oldest daughter. And I was experiencing a lot of criticism from my parents, and just, this is kind of what people experience when they have their family reunions and holidays, but this was an extended one. And there's cultural pieces to it too. Like, it is more the norm to live with your parents until you're married. And this is typically regardless of gender, although it's a bit harder for women, where it might be a little bit more pressure on women. And I also have this like free spirit heart, and I needed to live on my own. And so I did. And now I'm here with my parents and kind of having like a tough time with navigating adulting while simultaneously kind of being reminded of not being good enough, and then also having this just beautiful purpose on my heart. I mean, I was already a professor. I became a professor at 25. So in many ways, I was living a dream, an answered prayer. And there was just so much more. I was meant to do so much more. So I was just in this like tough space. And that's often where like the most beautiful art comes from. And I downloaded when I say downloaded, I mean from the divine, from, quiet time, solitude, prayer, contemplation time. I downloaded a sankalpa, is what it's called. And it is essentially kind of like a theme of the year, if you choose for it to be. And I downloaded that my word of the year for 2022, so technically it was 2021, is the word adorn. And it just, the way that it like came, and as soon as like I downloaded it, I was like, this is more than my theme of the year. Like, this is like the theme of my life. This is actually my life's work. This actually is a word that literally, like everything I was talking about in the intro, it's like I could see it, like I see the vision of, it's literally woven from the threads of every part of Malisa, And so I can definitely elaborate on that. And so this is now my word of the year. And eventually I realized this is a course. This is my offering, And at some point, especially recently, I'm realizing this is a movement. This is a global movement. And so when I think of the word adorn, a few things come up. I grew up in a culture where women are adorned, and, we were read to our weddings, growing up seeing that, like, I love that, and I don't necessarily dream of getting married, or, I don't have that a lot of people have, like, in terms of the wedding, but like, it's like, it would be a major life regret to not have a wedding, because I need to wear the outfit. I need to be adorned in, the sari and the gold and it's just next level. And to grow up in such a vibrant, colorful culture, is just something I'm so honored to have. Like, the fashion girly in me is just like, I'm just grateful that this is what I was born into. And even just getting to like look inside like my mom's sari closet and jewelry kind of boxes, like that's just some of my favorite memories. And so, but it's more than the external, of course. It's the vibrancy of our culture is so important to hold on to, because as I said, I come from a people that survived the genocide. So my parents are from Bangladesh. And it's a fairly new country. It became a country in 1971. Often, like, people's memories are either them or their grandparents or their parents remember George Harrison doing a concert for Bangladesh. The George Harrison of the Beatles, which is like, so like we love the Beatles as Bengalis for, what they've done to kind of put Bangladesh on the map and raise funds. And, sometimes I'm like the first Bangladeshi person people meet. But I'm just so proud of being from this culture. Like, my father is a freedom fighter, both my parents were alive during the war. And so I took it to heart. Like, I have 3 other siblings. I love them. I mean, we're all, I feel like we're all just we come from that. We're cut from the same cloth of like living a life in devotion to service. But I'm definitely the oldest daughter who like took this to heart, who became the social justice activist. And then some of my other siblings are like that too. But just like, I'm just like the person who's like, I need to do something about this. Like, I need to tell people this story. And that's another part of this kind of adornment, is growing up being adorned in these stories, of power, like where we came from. We're the only group of people in the world that essentially fought for the right to speak our language, and so voice, speaking up, the throat chakra, they're just so important. And, I've struggled with kind of muting myself, throughout my journey, and I still do. But, just remembering the stories that I've been adorned in as a child, like, it brings me right back to my power. Like, my power is in my voice, and I'm meant to be heard. And so, yeah, going back to like women in my culture being adorned in gold from, the moment we're born, and, still having this aliveness in that part of our culture when we were colonized, and so much of that was stripped from us. Adornment is how we keep the culture alive, like how we honor our ancestors, and honor our vessels. And so it's deep. I mean, I'm often adorned in henna, and it's like just so important to me. And here I'm adorned in, this is Palestine, which is Palestine, and this is the keffiyeh design. So I often have my activism adorned on my body too. I'm often wearing the keffiyeh, and I have adornment practices, adornment rituals, and those moments I take for myself, and this is what I teach my baddies and bombshells in my community, is that like it is that time you take to yourself to truly honor, the sacred temple that is our bodies. Just remembering my grandmother, she was always adorned in simple clothing, but beautiful clothing. She was a widow and had 6 children. And she was a widow quite young. And a lot of people, especially at that time, thought, oh, it would be over for her. And she was like, no, like we are going to be living well. We're going to be taken care of. And I'm going to be taken care of. And she was always just kind of adorned in the best oils and just, glowing, and also always reading the Quran and just like in devotion. So like we get to be both. Adornment isn't ungodly at all. I think that honoring the vessel that the divine created for us, I mean, it's a prayer in itself, you know? And so that is kind of what is woven into this concept of adorn, the course adorn, the movement of adorn. Like, it comes from culture, it comes from sacred rituals, it comes from ancestry, it comes from the female lineage. And the men are adorned too, you know, like men get to be, all genders get to be adorned. And so I don't know none of these influencers have anything on my dad and his skincare routine, you know, and he's just like so adorned in his like face creams and all the things. And this was just forever. And, you know, so it isn't necessarily like gender specific, but that's a little bit about like, and then I'm always adorned in like a bindi as well, which is like a part of my culture. And it's gotten to a point when if like Gwen Stefani gets to wear a bindi and like that's not even her culture, like I get to wear it wherever I want to wear it. This is part of my culture, you know? That's like, yeah, that's just a little bit about like kind of the background of Adorn, but also it's deep, you know. It's like I was saying, like it is that devotion to self and the body and honoring it. And I like to tell my baddies, like, we're adorned in divine love first, you know, first and foremost, you know, like that is the foundation. It actually isn't an external thing. There are days that I, you know, will run out the house with just SPF on, and of course always lipstick, because I'm the lipstick mystic. And I will get all the compliments and stares in the world because I'm adorned in divine love and I walk through the world that way. And so those are some concepts of adorn.
Woman, I cannot. Like, I've got like all these notes running through my mind of like, oh, I need to ask her about this and this and this and this. And now it's like the list is so long. I love adornment as a sacred act of honoring your vessel, your ancestry, your culture, your lineage, yourself. So many philosophies around divinity and religion tell us it's vain and selfish or frivolous. And that just doesn't ring true for me in my bones, right? And to reframe that in this way and in a sacred way of honoring our vessel and this gift and this life and our lineage, I think is so beautiful and really powerful to like let that sink in and what that really means. And then, you know, I also had the thought that, and whether or not this is accurate or true, it dawned on me when you were saying that about, you know, sometimes in pop culture, we see some of these things, you know, somebody else wearing a bindi who's like, that's not even who they are. And yet it can be seen as something that's really cool. And yet someone like you who's wearing it, who is a part of your lineage and your culture, may be targeted in a way for that expression. And like, just like that act of adornment of owning who you are. And that's, I think, where where that social justice piece has to come in, because you are embodying who you are and you want to own that without feeling like you're putting yourself at a safety risk in some way as well. Does that ring?
Yeah, don't even get me started. Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, exactly. And thank you for seeing the connections here between, like, again, adornment being a spiritual practice. It's a social justice practice. It's like, yeah, like for me, as I said, I'm adorned in my activism as well. And, you know, to your point, I absolutely have felt, you know, like targeted because of honoring my culture, yet when someone else dishonors it because it's cool. And, you know, and I get it. There are people who at times who have done their research and things like that, but there's still a privilege there. Like, you know, these people at Coachella, they are going to be in magazine spreads because of the things that they wear at Coachella, which often are appropriated from, you know, indigenous cultures and, you know, often like people of color. And it's a double standard. And, you know, there are people who are friends of mine who are like, so I can't wear a sari or I can't. And it's like, that's disempowering. It's not about you can't. Like, it's about actually, like, you have the choice to do what you want, and you clearly have the choice, especially with privilege, to do whatever you want, right? And so what is the empowering choice here? Like, what if, yeah, maybe you can purchase a star. Maybe, like, of course, like, for example, if I have a wedding, then people will come in saris, people of all cultures, and that's called cultural appreciation. And I can't wait for that day. And maybe you're visiting a country where, it is a beautiful experience and even respectful to wear cultural attire. It's just about power and choice. It's about, like, you get to decide. So actually it's a moment where you get to feel empowered and like, oh, wow, like, I actually choose not to wear this, but maybe I buy it for someone else as a gift. Like, maybe someone in this country who's less fortunate, who couldn't afford this, or I get to buy it and just honor it as a beautiful piece of art. But I just get to be mindful of when I wear it because, like, I do have privilege, and I will just get, it even comes down to things like, for example, hairstyles and this whole idea of it's just hair. And then for example, the Black community, locks or braids or different hairstyles have such deep meaning. I mean, there's even slave roots like braided into hair. Back in the day, that was, a practice, right? And just to strip all of that just for like a fashion statement, to strip all of that meaning is, I just think, irresponsible. And it's the fact that people will literally get fired. And yes, there's a whole law now called the Crown Act to prevent that, to prevent hair discrimination. But the fact that we even had to get to that place is actually like the most heartbreaking thing, to actually have to pass a law that, would protect people from getting discriminated against because of their hairstyles. Whereas when white people wear those same hairstyles, they get complimented, they get paid, they get to, it's high fashion when they do it. And that's why, like, self-love work and social justice work, like I said, it's so interconnected, like, because, yeah, like, I think for people like me, we get to be in this radical act of self-love just by showing up and just, like, embracing who we are. Like, in many ways, and like, not to say like I'm a very hard worker, and I also feel like so much of my work is just showing up and being myself. Like, that is actually my work in the world, because by doing that, I am literally like acting as representation, changing the way people think about people who look like me. And it's just an energetic thing too. And also, just coming from the ancestry I come from, it's a privilege for people to also experience people like me who, honor that lineage and have that kind of wisdom in their DNA to share. And then one last piece I wanted to throw in, a pop culture piece, is this whole, and I won't get into it, but this whole controversy with American Eagle, with Sydney Sweeney and My Jeans, right? But it was kind of a play on words, like jeans, Jeans, is what they're promoting, but then she's clearly referring to her jeans, Gens, right? And Gap recently just launched a commercial that has this diversity of women in it, and kind of as a bit of a response. And one of those women is South Asian. And that is something, I mean, I would have loved to have that representation growing up, And so and that's like, even just the clothing we adorn ourselves in is a social justice statement. Like, are you going to support a company that, is producing things in third world countries and paying people less and next to nothing, in these garment factories that are also in Bangladesh? Or are you going to support local businesses? And I mean, obviously I brought up Gap to make a point that American Eagle and Gap are having this moment, but obviously they're both kind of part of consumer culture. But we gotta like celebrate those moments, like, regardless, because nothing's gonna be perfect on this journey. But these are also things to think about. Like, what are we adorning ourselves in is actually political. And the whole thing about I'm not political. Everything we do is political. Everything we do is political, whether we like it or not. So that is just kind of has been proven to be untrue.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to shift just a little bit as on the same thread though, because beyond adornment, this is how you live your life, the actions that you take, the way you live, the way you embody just by showing up in this wanderlust venture that you've been on for the last 2.5 years, this life that you are very intentionally and intuitively designing. I want you to take us on that journey with you because I know that, like everything else, is a big part of your work, and I think that you are not just living by example, but you also teach others how to live in this way through some of your courses. So I'd rather you speak to it because I'm bumbling it already. So, but just this way of being and existing and living this beautiful life that is true for you in this very intuitive and impactful way. Tell us a little bit about what that journey has been like for you.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. Oh my gosh, where do I begin? Well, I just had an elixir that I like to call, which is my community events, and it was called The Art of Living, all in a life curated by intuition in devotion to beauty. And that is, I mean, there's so many threads in my life, but that is just like at the core of it, and a couple different kind of threads within that. So I live my life curated by intuition. So that was kind of one of my divine downloads, right? Like curate a life based on intuition. What if your intuition curated your life? Like, what would your life look like? And, I don't know if you can tell, because obviously with this podcast setup, this is what, the focus of the camera is, but I have this like gorgeous adorned ceiling. And I actually, even though I'm very meticulous about where I stay, and that's a huge part of this wanderlust journey. Like I love to invest in spaces that, really make the artist in me come alive, that is beautiful, so that I can be surrounded by beauty. I didn't even know that my ceilings were going to be adorned too. Like they, for some reason, didn't include that in the pictures. And so that's like a part of my life as art. Like the art literally like rises up to meet me wherever I am. Like the beauty kind of follows me. And so one of my kind of, teachings in Adorn is that beauty is a frequency. And what that does for us is I think it just frees us, because we live in a world, I grew up where I was certainly not the standard of beauty. I mean, I'm still not. I mean, and it's like, F the standard of beauty. It's been so painful for women, for all genders. And it's like, there just comes a point where I just tell my baddies in Adorn, like, you're the beauty standard. Like, what if we just decide, what if we walk through the world deciding we are the beauty standard? Who's going to stop us, right? And it's not a matter of like, the point isn't to be more beautiful than anyone else. It's just like deciding in my world, I am the main character and I get to be a beautiful person, like regardless of what society says and regardless of if people agree or not, like I think it, and I'm a creation of the divine. So to think anything otherwise is disrespectful to God, And so that's bringing in kind of the sacredness to it. And so that is kind of this core part of how I live my life, of tapping into the frequency of beauty. And obviously in spiritual communities, it can be like abundance is the thing, or divine love. And I feel like beauty, like to me, it's like similar concept to those things. Like it's my version of abundance, And when we realize that beauty is just a frequency we can tap into, and really like the poets, the mystics of throughout history, the beauty that they're referring to is just this timeless beauty, It's this art that we all get to have access to, that we all are. And so that is how I live my life. And, this wanderlust journey, honestly, like I got to a point, as I was saying, back in New York, things were just getting so depleting, and my work as a professor, I love my students, but being at home and knowing I'm meant for so much more and feeling kind of caged in, I just made this decision. I just honestly got that intuitive insight. And as soon as I knew, it was like, oh my gosh, it's real. Like I am not just going anywhere. I'm going to go to the other side of the world. I'm going to Australia. And because I just need to I clearly that's how much I needed a pattern interrupt. Like I needed to go to the other side of the world. And Lisa, I was actually in Evoke during that time. And, just to think it just seemed like, how am I going to do it? And now I'm 2.5 years in, more than 2.5 years in. And I literally took a flight December 31st, 2022, New Year's Eve. While I was in the air, it never turned midnight. So I was never in a time zone where it turned midnight. So I've been in this timeless spaciousness portal of, it really feels like that. And that's why it's almost it's addictive, I will admit. And it's this, I'm in this kind of, this vortex. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make my way back to the US. And my family misses me and I know I need to. I know I'll find my way, but I do it intuitively, wherever my heart kind of leads me to. And I trust that. And perhaps this sounds like a conversation of privilege, but I'm not Emily in Paris. I'm Ali in Paris, right? Currently in Spain. That show and Eat, Pray, Love, they're great. I love them. And, there's a lot of Emilys in Paris, right? And, and there's a lot of Elizabeth's Eat, Pray, Loving. And we also need more diversity in those conversations. What it's like to be solo traveling as a brown Muslim woman, or which Tracy Ellis Ross, and to be fair, her mother's Diana Ross and all the things, but at the same time, she is this beautiful Black woman solo traveling. She has a show right now talking about that, and I think that's great. We need more voices, going back to the voice, sharing what their journey is like, because Elizabeth Gilbert and Emily in Paris aren't traveling the way Malisa, the lipstick mystic, is traveling, right? I mean, when I land somewhere, I honor the land. I immediately look up if there's an indigenous tribe that we can honor, especially in Australia. That was so much fun to just, look up all of the Australia and New Zealand, to look up all of these gorgeous tribes and their rituals and traditions. And what if we made travel sacred? How different would our travels be, And so that's kind of the journey I've been taking. And then I'll be in countries Belgium, and I'm like, ooh, the history is actually really painful, the things that were done. I mean, now Congo has a genocide as well, and they're really, what their history has been was so painful, right? And yet I get to be in this country, enjoy its beauty, and honor, the history. And so we also get to be, I'm in a lot of colonizer countries now. I'm in Spain, I'm in Granada, and I get to look into the history. I get to honor the beautiful kind of art that I'm surrounded by, the beauty I'm surrounded by, but also know that, this is a country that colonized a lot of the world, and that was painful. And, we get to just honor the duality of it. I think people are afraid to face the truth, and that it's maybe ruins the fun. And I just feel truth is just a vibration that is just incomparable, and the truth will set you free. And so just kind of really calling out the elephant in the room, actually I feel now I can walk through Spain and have a beautiful journey, knowing that I've made peace with and I've honored, the history. I've shared about it. And so I infuse this into my writing and my posts and things like that, where I'll say, I have a post where I will have my lipstick on, have a glamorous moment. I'll call out, institutional racism and the colonizers. I'll be in a cute coffee shop. I'll say a spiritual affirmation all in one post, because we literally just get to honor all of us at the same time. And so when people feel there's this part of me and that part of me, be all of you at the same time.
Yeah. You are like, I don't know what the word I'm even searching for because I'm flipping on my words now. Like, it is an art and it is something you are incredibly gifted at. I have read your posts. Like, they are so good. The way you name the thing without like shame or blame or trying to humiliate anybody or anything. It's just like the thing is the thing. You name the thing. And you celebrate what you're celebrating. The duality of it is really something to learn from and to witness the way that you do it. It is really incredible. And it's a gift you have. You really do. And I know that you're saying like, yeah, just be all of you, right? And so for a lot of people, they're like, what, how? Right? It's so foreign. It's like a concert pianist. I know somebody would say to me like, oh, anybody can play the piano. And I'm like, no, no, no. We all don't have that thing. We can all learn, right? But some of us are just really skilled and good at it. And I think that's what we get to learn from you is that like you really have embodied this practice, are truly living it in your bones all the way through to your external whole life. And there's room for so much growth for all of us to be able to learn how to do that for ourselves, to be able to name the truth and to be able to experience, a beautiful life, as you said. And I think that's really empowering. And it is freeing in many ways. It is freeing. It does take the elephant out of, they take the size of the elephant out of the room, right? It just deflates the pressure when we can do that in a way that is just, it's just the truth, right? Like, what if we all just owned a little piece of that?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And thank you for seeing that in me. And it kind of makes me laugh because, I know not everybody's there yet, like you are with my posts, and some people are like, what in the world? But like,
I love them. I live for them. They're so good. I'm like, wow, how does she do that? Like, it's so good. I'm like reading through the words. It's like poetry. It's almost a song. It's got rhythm. It's also got just so much heart. And like, it just takes you on a journey. Like if somebody takes a minute to just read it, you go on a whole journey in one post. You're like, wow. I had no idea I could go all those places in just like 2,200 characters. It's really incredible.
it's so true. I mean, I literally have to like cut down often because it's just not enough space with Instagram captions. So I might have to move my writing over to some other spaces. But yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate you seeing me. And, I just feel like that's just a part of it where ultimately it's art for art's sake. It's just, I don't have a million followers. I'm not even close, right? I have like 1,000 followers at the time of this recording. And it's about like showing up as that person regardless. I think that's what devotion is. I know you and I have bonded over devotion, and I've been on like such a devotion kick, and like I said, I'm in devotion to beauty. I'm in devotion to divine love, to a higher purpose, to my North Star. And, I was always this person though, I mean, visibility has been really hard for me. It's still a thing, but like, be that person regardless, like of who's watching, And I feel like the 5D and the 3D eventually just kind of get on the same timeline. And, speaking of kind of things finally clicking with my body of work in this kind of offering in spiritual communities, I guess, in my community, I've always been that person, right? And finally, I think social media was a great way for me to let people see that, to share and express. It was another classroom, like my classroom, my university lecture halls, like that, that was also like, it's my runway as well. I brought in the glamour to it as well, right? And I love that. And I also always felt like there's something bigger. And so to share my voice online, it's hard these days because you're like, oh, it feels like an echo chamber. It feels like we don't matter, because of metrics and things like that. And I think when we, reframe it to just showing up as devotion to that person, to being that person regardless, right? And showing up in devotion to beauty, to your North Star, I just think like your people will find you. It's just inevitable. And somehow, I have a community and I don't know how it happened. And it's really because I have shown up as that person and that magnetizes people. When I tell you, like, because I know people often, I listen to interviews, I'm like, yeah, but like you have people following you, probably you have friends and family following you. Like, I don't have that. I really am someone who just doesn't have that. I didn't have like the support of close friends. I honestly like barely had friends, you know, when I was kind of showing up in this arena. Yet I know that my purpose was here. And like, how would that even happen if I literally am talking to myself, maybe essentially, and really my sister, and that was it. And again, it's that devotion, and something finally clicked this year. I've been back and forth with this. Like, I've been showing up. I'm like, nobody cares. Run back into the cocoon. Showing up. Oh, visibility is painful. Run back into the cocoon. Showing up. Vulnerability hangover. Run back into the cocoon. And this year, yes, I've been in the cocoon, but the cocoon is just for sacred rest. But I'm not going anywhere. Like, I am here to stay. Like, it's finally clicked, you know? And I believe the journey is just meant to be exactly what it was. Like, I have been kind of in the artist's workshop, you know, and the Atelier, which actually is my mystery course. It's called Atelier. It's the sister course to Adorn, which I'll talk about. And the Atelier is the artist's workshop, right? It's like where the artist goes to, you know, work on their art. And I've been in there for a long time. That devotion, it's not for nothing. Like, it literally is why I get to be here today and say, I have a whole empire happening. I mean, I don't love that word, obviously, but like, just there's a body of work happening, you know, where I have a beautiful membership and these courses that are coming out one after another, finally, after years. And my signature course is Adorn. And after like 3 years, because I said the story of when I was born and downloaded, I finally just finished up a round of that, my first cohort, and it was just incredible. And, you know, the women that came in to Adorn, like, they kind of came out of nowhere too. They were not people who were like in my world, in my community necessarily. They just kind of, yeah, like God sent them my way, you know, God sent me their way. And, you know, just hearing how much it impacted them, there's like nothing like it. And like, I'm very big on authenticity, and, you know, I'm not saying there's amazing self-love courses and spaces out there, but this is, you know, really rooted in social justice and kind of so intentionally created that there's just nothing like it. And I am just really proud of it. Like, I've, you know, been in academia, I've been in nonprofit, I've been in spiritual spaces, and I can kind of, you know, stand here and say, like, I've created something kind of my own from my heart that is just so me. Like, one of my mentors, she actually, like, recently, you know, kind of heard about all the things that I was doing, and she was just like, you know, the best part about it is that it's so you, it's so Malisa. That's just like a love language for me, like authenticity, because we really are on this earth to be so us, like to be so ourselves. And so, and that makes things like easier too. That makes showing up easier, because it's like, oh wow, like I really get to share this like unique fingerprint of me that like no one else actually gets to with the world. And like that can be a beautiful motivation of showing up, because also by not showing up, we're keeping that unique, authentic magic from the world that only we can, you know, share and give. So,
oh my gosh, yes. Amen. 10x to that. Exactly. And this is why I have such a difficult time finding words to help people understand who you are, when I'm like, no, Malisa has to be experienced. You are an experience. The way you do, the way you guide, the way you teach, just being in your presence, the way you speak, the way you marry all these beautiful ideas and concepts and love and art and beauty into who you are. and into your work. It's really just a testament to everything that you've become and everything that you have to offer. That being said, do you have some things you can share with us today about how somebody might find you or tune into your work?
Well, first off, I'm going to be in Lisa's space in a Vogue. Did we reveal it yet? Because I think I might
No, we didn't. So this is it. This is the reveal.
It's me, surprise. I'm the surprise guest.
I love it.
I believe. And I am leading a workshop. It's actually my favorite elixir. It's called The Art of Dating Yourself. And it is calling in the one and reclaiming the baddie, which is just a huge part of what I'm doing over at Adorn. So I'm so excited about that. So I'm excited to see all of you there.
Yes.
I'm very much alive in Lisa's container, by the way. I show up to everything. That's a part of my devotion. And I'm over at Instagram as well, at XOMalisa, and my name is spelled uniquely, Malisa. And always just sharing some wild thoughts over there and curating beauty over there in the best way I can. And also just the Melissa-verse, I call it. Like instead of empire, it's kind of, there's a body of work that's being kind of woven right now, and it just excites me so much. And in it, like I said, is the signature course of Adorn, which we're enrolling for round 2, cohort 2. And it's really like everything I said about Adorn is woven in there, and it's really about like an opportunity to choose yourself. Like I am, a woman in her 30s who is single, who is not married, who doesn't have children. And I'm not living life in a waiting room. I'm not waiting until, the partner and the kids show up to like live this life that is apparently this perfect life. Like, I am choosing myself. Like, I don't even need to be chosen. I've already been chosen by a higher power, and I'm choosing myself. And this is like what fundamentally Adorn is about. It's that sacred self-love of choosing yourself. It's dating ourselves, reclaiming what I like to call the baddie. And it's really just, I think feminine embodiment has been taught in a way that is like singular. I'm just here to give permission to like the fiery feminine women, or just women to find that fire. Like we also get to be bold as much as we get to be soft. Like we get to like say, the things we want to say. We get to be disruptors. We get to like burn ish down and, like lead revolutions. Like we're the ones that have done that throughout history. Like why would we stop now? Yeah, there's so much happening in Adorn, so I'm just really excited about that. So yeah, those are kind of like what's alive. This next round of Adorn starts in Libra season, of course, on 10/10.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. All the things. I'm really excited for you to come inside our container and guide this workshop. I know it's going to be incredible. Having you here as a guest has been a dream of mine since the day I met you. So this is like a dream come true for me. So I'm so grateful to have you here with me. You are just like, again, just so much love, beauty, wisdom, and truth-telling in such a beautiful, artistic and way that only you can deliver. And I am just so lucky and blessed I get to be a recipient of it and get to sit down with you and even have this conversation. So thank you. Thank you. I feel honored. I feel blessed. I know anybody who tunes into this will feel the same. Excited for all the work that you are bringing into the world. Just delighted to have been a witness of its birthing and this unfolding for you. And I know that there is so much more to come and many more conversations to come. And I'm just looking forward to every single twist and turn on this journey and the evolution of everything that's happening right now. And amen to dysregulated women who are speaking their voice and just, living their life and making a difference while doing it. And I think more of us coming together is the way to go. And so I'm just, any woman that pops into your container, into Adorn, I just know is just going to be so expanded in every area of life. It's beyond adornment. And really incredible work that you're doing, and I'm just grateful for it, and really excited to see what comes of it.